It got down to 17 degrees here, and I wasn't sure how the garden was going to fare. I was pretty certain that we were going to lose our tender greens. Michelle and I came out a day or two before the hard freeze hit, and we harvested what we could and put up what we could. But obviously there's still good food here in the ground that could have been saved. Those nice big white egg turnips, all those greens that were attached. I think they're all going to be ruined. It's pretty squishy there on top. I don't think the greens are going to come back. Matter of fact, I know the greens are not going to come back. So turnips are done for the season. I didn't even get to harvest my rutabagas. I was hoping that the freeze would hold off until January and then we could get a rutabaga harvest. I'm not sure that the rutabagas are out for the count. They seem to be just a little touchy on top, a little soft. But if you look here in the center, we've got some growth that is standing straight up. So it means like, it looks like they may have some life left in them. We harvested all the broccoli that we could, but then we turned around and we had some little cabbages that we didn't harvest them because they really weren't big enough to harvest, so we took a chance. I'm not convinced that they really suffered much damage. I think that the cabbage may have come through it. Broccoli, I'm not sure. We harvested what we could. We don't know if we're going to get another harvest out of this, if it's going to bounce back or if it's gone for good. It'll probably be a couple more days before we find out. We've got some 70-degree weather coming up this week, and if there's any life in these plants, that should help push it to recovery. So we'll see. The hen bent didn't seem to be affected by the freeze. Onions can typically take a freeze. I fully expect the onions to come back from the hard freeze that we had and make a full recovery and go on to produce nice onions. We'll see in a follow-up video later on in the spring. Over here we had our lettuces, and you can see they're done. We had some beets in here and just starting to get some decent little beetroots on it. Maybe a couple more weeks I'd have been able to harvest some beets, but another failed crop of beets. Carrots, the tops of the carrots took a hit, but the carrot root is completely buried. Carrots can typically take the cold freeze, at least the amount of freeze that we just got. So I expect the carrots also to make a recovery. I'm not sure that we've lost our artichokes. I've had this artichoke plant here for 5 years. This one I planted back during the summer, so it's a fairly young plant. I'm kind of curious where they're going to survive this hard snap, but time will tell. I had some avocado seedlings that were in pots here, and I figured against this south wall that it would be kind of protected. But 17 degrees with 20-mile-an-hour winds, I don't think the avocados are going to be able to make it. It's okay. I've had a hard time trying to graft these, so it would just be rootstock that I've lost at this point. Against the south facing wall over there, we've had a flame grapefruit. And a night or two before the freeze, we came out, we cut the top out of it, we harvested the fruit that was sticking up above the roof line. We didn't harvest the grapefruits that were down lower simply because it was dark when we were harvesting and we couldn't see what we were doing. And I think the cold might have got the fruit that was on the tree. As you can see, the leaves look pretty burnt, but I think the tree itself is going to survive because it's got a nice trunk on it about this big around against that south facing wall. I'd be really shocked if the freeze killed that tree. Over here is a tangerine, and the tangerine also has a nice little base on it about this big around, a little bit smaller. And again, we harvested the fruit that was up top. We trimmed the top side of it. We were thinking the south facing wall would have protected the fruit. The fruits are going to be a total loss on this tree. The leaves look pretty burnt, but they don't easily give it up off the limbs. I don't think that the freeze hurt this tree. I think this tree is going to be just fine. But we were able to harvest probably 100 tangerines that we've got in storage, and we probably still have another 100 tangerines that are on the tree. They don't taste bad. I guess we'll have to see. I came out here the morning after the 17-degree temperature. These were solid. I transplanted this Meyer lemon that was over by the grapefruit tree out here in the middle of the orchard. And the leaves aren't detaching too easy. Well, those are coming off, but some of the others are still hanging on. I'm not sure. I guess we won't really find out about the citrus, what the true extent of the damage is, until spring when it starts pushing new growth. So I don't know what to make of the Meyer lemon. Right here we've got another grapefruit. This is a Duncan. It was a white grapefruit, and it was absolutely loaded with nice big grapefruits. We harvested everything we could off of this because it was right here, easy to get to. The leaves on it look really sad, but the leaves aren't easily letting go. I think this tree is also going to survive the 17-degree freeze. I put some grass clippings up around the graft union to try to save the graft union. The warmth of the heat of the ground will travel up through and kind of protect this. So we're done with that extreme cold temperature. It's supposed to get down to 29 tonight. 29 is not a risk for these trees. Check out how gnarly this Sharanui is. I planted this Sharanui back in the spring of last year, so it's been in the ground for a full year. It fruited this year. We got a lot of oranges off of this. This one looks like it really took a beating. Some of these leaves are brown. They're letting go. I sure hope I don't lose this tree. This is one of my favorite trees. It has the best tasting fruit out of all of my trees. It's absolutely my favorite citrus to eat. Again, I don't know the extent of the damage until springtime when it's time for all the plants to start putting on new growth. We lost all of the kumquats that were on our tree. There's probably 40 pounds of kumquat fruit. We should have got out here a day or two in advance and picked everything, and if nothing else, just give it away like Michelle said off camera. So we learn, and then next year we do different. We learn from our mistakes. I didn't come out here and wrap this tree because if it wasn't going to work out right here, whenever it gets really big, I'm still not going to come out here and wrap this tree. So if it's going to suffer damage now, then I'd rather it suffer the damage and lose it now while it's early, and I can replace it and put it in a more protected area. I came out to the fig orchard before the freeze. Last year we had a lot of freeze damage because this started pushing new growth, and we had a late freeze, and it busted the bark on some of the limbs that we had. But we had good growth and we had fruit all up in this area. So before the freeze, I came out and not this particular limb, but I had some other limbs that I wanted to prune off. I tagged it, I cut the entire limb off, and then I had good wood up here, and I'm going to make cuttings, and then we're going to start rooting cuttings off of last year's freeze damaged limbs. And if you want to do some propagation of some fig trees, that's a good opportunity. That if you have some winter damage, but you have some good wood that is on that, go ahead and cut this year's growth off, make a cutting of that, and then discard everything that had freeze damage. We've got this dwarf Namwa banana, and it started blooming around July. And I was really hoping that since it bloomed so early into the year, we would be able to get fruit off of it. But the freeze got it this year, had nice bananas coming on, and I wasn't able to harvest any of the fruit on it. Bananas are just so hard to do here in Zone 8. But I have some trees that if they decide to fruit early in the spring, we should be able to harvest bananas. I've had bananas in this area before. I've not had it on my trees, but there is hope that one day we might be able to get a rack of bananas off of these trees. Sure. All right, this freeze hit us very hard, but I didn't choose to try to wrap anything and save it. I'd rather plants show that they're going to perform, because later on down the road, we may get temperatures a little bit colder that really may try to challenge them. By then, they'll be bigger trees. So if they can't survive 17 degrees, you know, with a 2 or 3 year old tree, I'd rather find that out now. Hopefully that we'll be able to pull through hopefully all the citrus pulls through the freeze damage that we had. I don't expect any other losses out of the fruit orchard. I think everything else is going to survive. Generally, we have a problem with peaches blooming early, but we had our severe freeze earlier than we have in previous years. And it hasn't bloomed yet, so maybe we'll get some peaches on those earlier blooming varieties. We've got Sun Racer Nectarine that typically blooms about 200 chill hours. It didn't bud out and it didn't start blooming yet. We just had our hard freeze, so hopefully we'll have a good amount of nectarines and peaches in the coming year of 2023. I guess time will tell. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the carnage video of how this hard freeze affected our garden and our orchard. We hope you enjoyed the video. We invite you to hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and go ahead and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Flumpton Famous. We'll see you next time.